Hello, my name's Dan Travis and I'd like to welcome you to this audio that I prepared for you called Do I Self-Publish? Now people ask me that question, and the reason I think I'm some kind of authority on this is because I've been producing digital publications now for the last 2 years, and people always ask me this question, and that's whether they are a budding new author or they may be someone who's fairly established and they want to start producing Kindle productions, or they want to be on Kobo or on iTunes, and they say, do I self-publish now? Do I go digital? And my response to them is yes, you should. You definitely should do this, but there are certain things that you do need to consider. And the first of those is, well, can I self-publish? And well, the answer to that is yes, if the work you want to publish hasn't been published by anyone else in print or digital form. So if you're new to the writing game and you haven't yet produced anything, or no one else holds copyright to any work that you've done, then you're at an advantage there in that you don't have to seek anyone else's permission, and you can go about producing your publication with impunity. But it can be a problem if the work has been published by another party and it's them who hold the copyright. So if someone else owns your book, so if you've been published before, maybe a publishing house holds the copyright to that piece of work, then it's not impossible, certainly not impossible, but it can be an obstacle to producing digitally. And the third reason, probably the most common now, is that if your work appears elsewhere on the internet, then several of the digital publishing companies, Amazon in particular, may have a problem, and it may hold up the publishing process if your work can be found either in whole or part form elsewhere online. Now, I wanted to go through some advantages to self-publishing that certainly should be considered, or you should certainly take these into consideration. And these are advantages over more traditional forms of publishing. The first of those, and by the way, this list of 10 advantages that I'm going to give you now has been produced by Guy Kawasaki, and he looks at the self-publishing revolution, and he's got a very good book on this very topic. Why should you self-publish? So the first reason that he gives is content design and control. Self-publishers can control what's in a book, how long it is, and how it looks. They only answer to themselves and for most aspects of their book. So basically, it's in your hands. And in the past, traditional publishers, where you'd have to go and approach them again if you wanted it redrafted or reformatted. And from the beginning, they would use obviously their own people. But self-publishing, it's you and your team, and you can have complete control over the design. It has to fit obviously within Amazon's formatting criteria, or Kobo's or iTunes. Time to market is another big advantage. Self-publishers can get their book to market in less than a week once it's copy edited. So in other words, it's much quicker. You can have your book published digitally within 24 hours. Obviously, after it's been checked by Amazon and the other channels. They have their own checking procedure. And that works. So that makes it really quick. Now, traditional publishers would normally take 6 to 9 months at least to get a printed book to market, and they wouldn't release the ebook version earlier than the printed version. So you could be looking up to a year before your work being complete and then being published, and that's obviously not the case with Amazon and the other channels. Longevity. Self-publishers can keep their book in print forever, or at least as long as it takes for readers to discover it. Traditional publishers would stop marketing a book once sales had declined. So you're able, once sales have declined, or even if they haven't declined, and you want to re-stimulate the sales process by marketing the book in a different way, then you can do that at any point and for the length of time that the book is available digitally. Revisions are also revisions are important because everyone thinks after the book's been published, oh, I wish I had had that in, or I wish I could change that. And obviously going to traditional publisher, well, they'd have to start from scratch again. And it's obviously an expensive process. However, with digital publishing, that's not the case. You can make as many revisions as you like, and those will be available on your digital publication within 12 hours. You also have a much higher royalty, and obviously this is a question I'm asked fairly frequently when publishing. What is it that Amazon do? Well, they pay you 35% or 70% royalty to ebook self-publishers, and that's significantly higher than traditional publishers did. So, for example, on a $2.99 ebook, most authors make around $2. And that can be quite attractive, and certainly something you want to bear in mind, given that in traditional publishing, that simply wasn't the case. You were lucky to see any return at all. Price control, you can change the price of the book at any point. Again, it takes 12 hours to take effect. So if it's doing well, you can raise the price, or if you think that you can sell more by it becoming cheaper, then you can do that. And I say it takes 12 hours to be updated on Amazon. Global distribution is quite important because you can choose where internationally this book can appear and be purchased, and you don't have to go through any other party other than Amazon to do that. And Kindle Direct Publishing will list an ebook in 100 countries, and Apple's iBook store, for example, reaches around 50 countries. And you also have control of these foreign rights, so you determine who buys the foreign rights and for how much. You can make more money because you're not sharing foreign rights revenues with a traditional publisher. Analytics, again, another big advantage. You can receive real-time, or near as damn it, sales results figures. Traditional publishers provide twice-a-year royalty statements. So if you imagine running a business or running it with 2 sales reports a year, then that's the disadvantage of traditional publishing. Deal time flexibility. Self-publishers can make any kind of deal or arrangement with another organisation to promote the book. Traditional publishers would only sell to resellers, and they would only do that for bulk sales of printed books and to large organisations. Now, those are the advantages. I just wanted to quickly look at the downside, because it's not often discussed, particularly when people are trying to sell you their great new system of producing Amazon and producing on Kindle, and they'll say that you can sell 40,000 in a week. Well, that does happen, but you do need to bear in mind that the downside to traditional publishing is that you're going to lose the marketing clout of the big publishers, and that's quite a significant thing. Obviously, they have the connections, they're able to do things that you simply wouldn't be able to do on your own. You're also up against hundreds of thousands of other Kindle publications, and it is very difficult to stand out from the crowd. You really have to work at it if you want your book to reach a level of popularity that you think it deserves. So if that's your goal, if your goal is to actually sell books, then it's competitive for that reason. Now, formatting can also be a big challenge, whereas in the past, your traditional publisher, they format it for you, whereas now, you're there on your own with this kind of creaky ancient PDF the book's found on, and you have to reformat that. And believe me, that can be a real challenge. And just to reiterate the point that you're also on your own with marketing the book, and that brings numerous challenges. In fact, you think, oh well, I've written the book now, that's all the hard work over. Well, actually, it's the marketing. It does become the major factor. Will I be successful? Is a question that I'm also asked. And again, you get these kind of stories that, oh, well, 50 Shades of Grey, that sold 40,000 copies a week. And you do have success stories on Kindle, and you can sell well. But I would say that you're not any more likely to be successful than an author who's been published in print. So look at it that way. Your chances of success, best-selling success and popularity, are about the same. It's also more competitive because, again, there are more and more people producing Kindles. All right, you're certainly not the only one, and particularly if your work is popular fiction. Now, self-publishing, I would say, is most effective in the following areas. When you want to show leadership in a particular area, for example, I've had a lot of success. I'd say the biggest success I've had is people who are specialists in their field wanting to produce a piece of work that explains their expertise. And yes, as I say, that's probably been the best approach out of the numerous Kindle publications that I've completed. You also want to build an audience for your work. Again, that's really important. You want to have people who are going to obviously buy your book, but also you want to start a relationship with them and look at it from a very much more a long-term perspective. So it's not just the fact that you sell your book to them, but they then become involved in your work over a longer period of time. And also, if you want to promote an idea, right? Self-publishing again is very effective. Be that a political idea, albeit an idea in terms of fiction, literary criticism across the board. If that's what you want to do, then self-publishing and making a digital copy of that idea can be very effective. I just wanted to touch also on what you should look for if you do go to an agency, a digital publishing agency. I always say the first thing that you need to know or need to be certain of is that they know how to optimize on Amazon. In other words, take your digital publication and be able to use and have knowledge of how Amazon promotes it to Amazon users. And that would include Amazon Kindle search engine and the KDP Select program. Okay, so ask if they know about that and do some research yourself. Have a contract, because you want to ensure that it's still your work, so that the agency is also certain of that, and it stipulates in that contract what it is that agency is going to be doing for you. Knowledge of how to format the book and include pictures. So if you want your book to be illustrated with pictures, they're going to need to know how to do that and include pictures in the formatting process, because I can guarantee you it can be difficult, particularly again if it's a rather cranky old PDF that you've got there and you want to produce it into a digital form that is acceptable to Amazon and passes their formatting test. So just then to conclude, the digital formats. Now they are, the main ones, the top four are Amazon Kindle, Kobo, Apple and iTunes, and Google Books. So if you have, if you're looking at producing digitally, it's not just all about Amazon. Amazon's by far the most important, I think, because because they sell more than anyone else. But also Amazon's very, very crowded. Kobo far less so, although it's coming up as the rival to Amazon. In Canada, for example, it's now the biggest seller, or the most downloads there are now from Kobo, and it's displaced Amazon, and the same has happened in France, and it's also Japanese owned, so it looks like it's set to be fairly big in East Asia too. Apple and iTunes, people will read off their iPad. Some use the Kindle app still off an iPad, but others will download books that they can read from the Apple Store, and Google Books too. They are going to be having a big push this year, 2013, in order to promote the Google Book Store. So you need to bear in mind that those are the channels. So there we have it. I certainly think that digital publishing is worth a shot. It does have those advantages over traditional publishing. And for those reasons, I do think you should give it serious consideration. So thanks very much for listening. And if you do have time, you can go to my website, dantravis.co.uk. And if you want to know more about digital publishing, that's where you'll find the information. Thanks very much for listening.